Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder on Weather here. In this update, we've got multiple days of severe storms on the way. So we're going to really break down the details for you on this update so you can plan ahead and keep you as safe as possible. But let's take a look at the temperatures this morning, and highlighted areas in blue here. Those are well below average temperatures across a good part of the Northeast, and that swung all the way down to parts of Kentucky, even into Tennessee, even in portions of Alabama, back into Georgia, got in the action with those well below average temperature anomalies. Back into Wisconsin, they were in the 30s in a lot of these regions up here. There was also another cooler shot of air across the west as well. So there were a majority of you that actually felt really nice conditions, if not some chillier conditions. In fact, some of you actually experienced near, if not record lows this morning across portions of Illinois, back into Indiana, back into Kentucky, as well as into West Virginia, into Virginia, getting into North Carolina and Tennessee, all experienced some well below average temperatures, and some of those areas did actually get near, if not actually broke, a daily record in that region. But let's give you the breakdown of what's unfolding. So here is the backdoor trough. That was the culprit that brought all the smoke and kind of the haze with that counterclockwise flow, drug all the way down from Canada with those wildfires into these regions, and the much cooler than average temperature anomalies. We also, at the same time, this ridge of high pressures building down there in Mexico, that's going to be sneaking into a good part of Texas, really elevating those temperatures with a lot of heat coming down in that region. But we've got an active subtropical jet going to be moving in off the west coast, and then spokes and spokes of short waves are going to be moving out ahead of it, and that's going to be the culprit, along with the heat building in from Mexico and the rotation in the atmosphere. We've got a lot of lift coming in off west, and that is going to be setting the stage for, unfortunately, multiple days of severe storms. So for today, we do have a marginal risk in place for portions of Kansas, back into Oklahoma, into the Texas Panhandle, and far west Texas along the dry line, where it will get active later on this afternoon, and then across portions of Florida as well. They still get those diurnal daytime heating thunderstorms, but there's in the middle of the country. The temperatures are going to be heating up in a big way, so those 90s are going to be fueling the fire with those storms. They're going to be activated in this region, and we do have a pretty significant severe weather risk on the table for Saturday. But Father's Day is coming up, and if you're in the market for a weather station, I definitely highly recommend the Tempest Weatherflow weather station. It's the one I've actually personally had for 3 years now. I feel that's the best one on the market. The cool thing about it is it's a 5-in-1 system. It's all solar. It's got a convenient app and a desktop version. You can be a part of the 45,000 that are actually in the Tempest community right now, and it only takes 10 minutes to install. So it's a perfect Father's Day gift out there. In fact, I do have a discount code that will provide 10% off and free shipping at checkout. So you can click on the link in the description below and possibly order one for yourself. But let's take a look at the setup as we go into Saturday, right? So let's break the thing down for you, get the pencil out, and look at that backdoor trough. And that's going to be, again, retreating back up there into portions of New England. That's going to set the stage for this other trough that's going to be highlighted over Canada, that's going to be shifting southbound, that's going to be impacting portions of the Midwest, with definitely more unsettled weather for them and heavier showers and thunderstorms. At the same time, we've got that spoke of energy out west, and then we've got these active short waves are going to be coming across. And that's going to be, kind of taking its sweet time with that parent low well out west, with these short waves out ahead of it. That's going to send impulses of energy, bringing those multiple days of severe storms that are going to be on the table. And it really is going to be starting on the day on Saturday. In fact, they already upgraded this to an enhanced risk for severe storms across the entire Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, into East Texas, getting into the Shreveport area. I think storms kind of blow up mesoscale convective complex later on tonight into the overnight hours, starting around into the Oklahoma City area, from the northwest and dive down into the southeast. So this whole area is definitely under the gun for all three modes of severe storms. In fact, these could be some large hail producers, if not some very large hail producers. Whenever you see a asterisk like this, you have a greater probability of seeing those really significant damaging hail of 2-inch or greater type variety that could be that golf ball, maybe even some tennis ball size hail. In fact, 30% probability across a good part of Dallas, Fort Worth, into Wichita Falls, but you could still see some very large hail back into Waco, even as far south as Houston, getting into Austin region, back into Longview, into the Texarkana region. And the atmosphere is going to be having subtle rotation. So don't let your guard down just because it has a 2% probability of a tornadic setup. This could be even higher, and in fact, I do expect this to be upgraded at least a little bit. So I am expecting at least an isolated tornado threat within this region, compounding with the significant winds, with those downburst, microburst winds that could be unfolding with that mesoscale convective complex that's going to be moving across. If you look at some of these updraft potentials, down here, this really highlights over North Texas, back into Central Texas, places like into Dallas, into Waco. Down here in these regions, you probably have the most significant threat of seeing some of those larger hailstones that could do a lot of damage to your vehicles in your house. So definitely be on high alert. And it's a 1-2 punch. I think that we have a storm complex that comes in during the morning time, early morning time, and then we have another complex that fires up 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon that we have to be concerned about as well. So if we kind of zoom in, you can actually see this complex. So I think we have a complex that forms into the kind of the overnight hours and the wee hours of the morning into the Oklahoma region. Those will be diving from the northwest down to the southeast. So here's the leftover from that first initial mesoscale convective complex. And then we have regeneration of activity as the atmosphere becomes unstable again. And then we have these isolated bubblers starting to form in the form of discrete supercells. So this is what we're concerned about. This is why they have that enhanced risk in play. So it's a 1-2 punch, and this is around 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening time frame on Saturday. So definitely plan ahead with these pretty significant severe weather threat across the Dallas-Fort Worth region, and that filters into East Texas. And then once we get into Sunday, that will move out of the Texas region, and now the shift will be back into Arkansas, into Missouri, back into portions of western Kentucky, western Tennessee, and the far northern fringes of Mississippi. And those will be strong to severe storms as well, with a damaging wind threat and a large hail threat into the afternoon time frame. But here's the heavier rains with that pocket, that trough that's going to be coming in and diving across portions of the upper Midwest on top of this other convective system on the southern fringes. We put a kind of a bullseye of the heavier rain really highlighting over Tennessee and portions of northern Mississippi, getting into portions of Alabama, back into Georgia, but definitely some welcome rains across Illinois, into Indiana, back into Michigan, back into portions of Ohio. Definitely some welcome rain for those regions. And the heat is going to be really elevated across the south. The further north this ridge lifts, we could be looking at the first 100-degree day across the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and that's probably many of days to come as a string of triple-digit temperatures seem to be on the table. And the further north this ridge lifts, that'll dry out the taps down there in Texas, and that'll put the boundary further north. So you guys that have been missing out on the action, like into the Arkansas region, into portions of Missouri, you're going to be suddenly kind of in the favorite area of those heavier rain threat and the storm threat. So here's the setup, on the vorticity map with that system highlighted over the upper Midwest. And then we've got these active short waves are going to be coming across with the active low-level jet off the west coast, and these pulses of energy are going to be coming across. This is on Monday, so we have a renewed threat that's going to be coming across the south as well. So it really starts to expand and intensify, and like I mentioned, it's a multiple day of event for severe storms. It's been a while since we've seen something like this. So here's the setup on Monday. So I think we have a dry line setup out west across portions of New Mexico into far west Texas. That drapes across with the short waves with another impulse of strong to severe storms across North Texas into Central Texas. And then now that secondary system that was over Tennessee is going to be over portions of the Carolinas by then back into Virginia with their own severe storms as we get into the day on your Monday afternoon time frames. Because if you take a look at the latest K index, this kind of gives you a depiction on where some of the thunderstorms will be, and the most numerous thunderstorms, anything really over 35 here, kind of breaks it down in layman's terms, where they could be seeing numerous thunderstorms. So it's really draped across where the short waves are going to be coming across the southern plains, and then really highlighted over across portions of the Carolinas. That will pull into portions of even Pennsylvania. Portions of New Jersey could actually see some severe storms going into your Monday, heading into that Tuesday time frame. But again, the further this ridge is going to be taking its sweet time, but eventually it's going to be really parking itself over Texas, and it's going to be shutting the taps off of any rain tranches for them, but it's going to be lifting the subtropical jet further north. So again, the alignment's going to be really setting up across portions of Arkansas. Here's the setup on Thursday. So the tap shut off across the deep south and lifts it further north. So you still have that active northwest flow, but the subtropical jet is going to be further north away from that ridge. And then that's going to put the alignment across Kansas, into Missouri, into Arkansas, and that filters into Tennessee. That's where you could really get some training. Thunderstorms, flash flooding could be a huge concern with multiple days of rounds of storms in that region, because that just continues into Friday. So the further north this ridge builds across the southern plains, it really dries out this atmosphere and displaces the more unsettled weather away from that ridge. So these areas across the southeast will be highlighted by the time we get into the middle of the month across portions around the 16th time frame with those heavier showers and thunderstorms. And it's all culprit about this ridge of high pressure that's going to be moving in from Mexico. So by the time we get into the 16th through the 22nd of the month, the entire state of Texas is likely going to be under the gun of that dominant ridge of high pressure. That's going to lift further north into Louisiana, back into Arkansas, and then eventually lift even further north back into Oklahoma, into Kansas, into Missouri. This gets into Tennessee. So you notice, I mean, as we get deeper into the month of June, that ridge will be just kind of taking over and expanding across a good part of the South and the Mid-South, and then going to be pulling the more unsettled weather further north. So the breakdown on the precipitation front for the next 2 weeks has the predominant active northwest flow continue to remain active, but with the subtropical jet lifting further north and the ridge underneath, that's going to have the axis of the heavier rains pinwheeling across portions of Nebraska, getting into Kansas, back into Oklahoma, getting into Missouri, Arkansas, especially into Tennessee, into Kentucky, across these regions, across the southeast. And then you'll have your own heavier rains to deal with across portions of the mid-Atlantic regions, as well as into the Northeast, while you get at least some beneficial rains are going to be moving back in across portions of the upper Midwest. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch my next update while I protect you before and after the storm.